The classic script of romantic delusion. You meet a woman. Everything's perfect. The texts flow like a slick cell phone ad. And then, out of nowhere, she goes ice cold faster than forgotten ice cream in Alaska. Her replies turn short, delayed, and totally lacking enthusiasm. You sense the shift and, like any guy desperate for connection, you flip into rescue mode, sending a good morning, which never gets the same vibe back, asking if everything's all right. It isn't, but it's not you, trying to chat like you're hosting a talk show. But the harsh truth slaps you in the face. She just doesn't give a damn. And that's when the delicious rejection kicks in. Being ignored. It stings. It brings that wonderful feeling of helplessness, as if you're just a supporting character in your own story. How did the woman who once seemed so into you end up treating you like a telemarketer pitching credit cards? Your gut tells you to push harder, because of course nothing screams hot like a desperate guy bombarding messages. But every move you make just adds another brick to the wall of her disdain. You start fading away, becoming a nobody, until one fine day she vanishes for good. Congrats, you've unlocked invisible mode. But wait! The magic happens when you finally stop being a sucker. You quit chasing, accept your fate, disappear off the radar. And then guess what? She reappears. First, there's that suspenseful silence. Days or weeks later, she drops a random a nonsensical message or a pathetic excuse to start a convo. But why? What changed? Did you suddenly become the most fascinating man alive? Of course not. You just stopped being taken for granted. You created scarcity, mystery, and made her wonder if you even exist anymore. You activated a psychological trick that makes anyone crave what they can't have. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how to use that to your advantage. Because, my friend, nothing hurts more than seeing the one who ignored you crawling back. Now, listen up. After this, you'll never again be just a disposable extra in this romantic soap opera. But first things first, this video exists only because someone out there clicked like and subscribed. So do your part. Stop being lazy. Hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a thank you in the comments. Not for me, but for the algorithm. Otherwise, this content disappears, and more guys will keep getting played without learning a thing. Enough drama. Let's get to the good stuff. Number 1, the mistake that makes you vanish. Every man's taken this slap in the face at least once. You meet a woman, the convo flows, she seems into it. Quick texts, excitement, emojis, laughter. Everything's golden. You start rehearsing in your head how you're going to tell your buddies. This time, it's different. And then, out of the blue, the black hole of indifference appears. Her replies start taking longer than a food delivery on discount day. Her enthusiasm evaporates. You realize you're talking to yourself. And what do? Double down on the humiliation, of course. You keep texting, trying to be funnier, more affectionate, more present. Because, in your head, the problem is that you're not trying hard enough. And that's exactly when you dive into the abyss of oblivion. The issue was never a lack of effort. It was too much effort. The more available you are, the more she sees you as that forgotten cold coffee on the table. You think you're winning her over, when in reality, you're just another flyer on a notice board. Predictable, taken for granted, boring. Women don't waste time on guys who are too easy. And no, it's not because they're mean or into suffering. It's biology. Since the caveman days, women have chosen partners who show value, who are pursued, who have options. If you set yourself up as a consolation prize, where's the excitement? Now, here's the cherry on top. What's valuable is rare. What's hard to get? What isn't available to just anyone? Think about the most coveted items in the world: luxury cars, sold-out concert tickets, that one collector's piece that only exists in a handful. They're desired because not everyone can have them. Relationships work the same way. The mistake that makes you vanish is simple. Being the guy who's always there, always available, always predictable. The guy who gives no doubt, causes no mystery, and doesn't stir up even a pinch of insecurity to keep the game interesting. Because what's guaranteed is never truly valued. Now, you're probably wondering, So, what do? Simple. Learn to create scarcity. Understand the power of absence. And that's exactly what we'll dig into next. If you think disappearing doesn't work, just wait until you see the devastating effect of well-applied disdain. Number 2. The psychological power of silent disdain. The silent disdain. The most brutal and effective tool in the male arsenal. And no, I'm not talking about childish pouting or being an asshole without reason. I mean understanding how the human brain works and using it to your advantage. Want a secret? What disappears creates doubt. What pulls away sparks desire. What you can't control becomes addictive. Let's revisit that previous tragedy. You were there, all nice, always available, ready to answer like a needy call center agent. She knew she could have your attention anytime, so why bother valuing you? Now imagine you just disappear. No fights, no dramatic goodbyes, no tearful letters explaining your pain. Poof! You vanish from her messages, ignore her social media, stop liking or commenting on her posts. And what goes on in her head? At first, probably nothing. The harsh truth. At first, she might not even notice. But as the days pass, doubt starts to nibble away. He disappeared? Maybe he's with someone else? Did he just forget about me? Bam. The spell turns on the spellcaster. The same guy she used to ignore suddenly becomes interesting again, simply because he's no longer there. It happens for a simple reason. The human brain hates unanswered questions. When you vanish without explanation, you become a mystery. And what do mysteries do? They beg to be solved. You stop being predictable and turn into an enigma. And guess what? Enigmas are irresistible. Now pay attention, because here comes the golden rule. Silent disdain only works if it's absolute. That means no just checking in texts, no likes or social media interactions, no cute sweet responses when she crawls back. Be a real ninja of disappearance. Or do you think a lion bothers to warn the gazelle that he's moved territories? And I can already hear you asking, but if I vanish and she forgets me? Here's the raw truth. If a woman can forget you that easily, she never truly liked you. You were already losing anyway. Silent disdain isn't manipulation. It's a test that reveals your real worth. And here's a detail that sets men apart from kids. Just by having the discipline to ignore her, you're already in a league above 90% of guys. Know why? Because most are weak. They spiral into desperation, send dramatic long texts, and keep pestering. You, on the other hand, show you have options, that you're not desperate, that you're in control. Now that you get the psychological power of silent disdain, the next step is simple. Watch how she reacts, because there's a predictable sequence of responses, and each one reveals exactly what's going on in her head. But before we move on, let me give you a heads up, champ. If you're tired of being every woman's doormat, of being kicked around and still thanking her, it's time to man up. There's a digital book in the description that'll teach you how to stop being that human rug and become a man of true value, a challenge, someone who calls the shots in his own game. Learn to never lower your head again, and most importantly, to not give a damn if she walks away. The world doesn't respect pushovers, my friend. Either you take control of your life, or you keep playing the fool. The choice is yours. Number 3, the stages of her reaction. When you disappear. Now that you understand the crushing power of silent disdain, here's the fun part, watching the desperation unfold. Believe me, it doesn't happen by chance. There's a predictable script, and most women follow this cycle like clockwork. Check out the 5 stages of emotional collapse a woman goes through when a man simply vanishes. First stage, indifference. In the first few days, she feels nothing. Nada. Her ego is big enough to think you disappeared because you got busy, tired, or worse, got dumped and accepted your fate. To her, it's all the same. You're just another guy in her infinite stock of male attention. This is where 90% of men mess up. They notice she doesn't care and, terrified of being forgotten, rush back into the picture. They send a, "Hey, stranger," ironic, right? Or a random emoji in a pathetic attempt to reconnect. A fatal mistake. You need to hold on, because the real game starts in the next stages. Second stage, curiosity. After a few days or weeks, something changes. She starts noticing one annoying detail. You haven't uttered a word. No messages, no likes, no sign of life. And then the first seed of worry. Did he forget about me? Her mind, which was busy with more important things, is forced to reckon with your absence. Because if a guy just vanishes without even one last move, he must have options. And a woman hates the idea of losing out to someone else. Now her radar goes off. You're no longer a guaranteed option, you've become an unresolved variable. Third stage, doubt and insecurity. Here's where the game starts to flip. She begins rereading your old chats, going over past messages, remembering the good times, and boom. A corrosive doubt creeps in. Did I do something wrong? Congrats, you just made her crave the validation she once tossed aside. Now, she finds herself thinking about you out of the blue, just as you did with her before. The twist? Now it's her missing you. And the longer you stay away, the more that doubt grows like an emotional tumor. Fourth stage, testing and hints. She needs an answer. She needs to know if she still holds a piece of your attention. So she starts with subtle tests. A random like on one of your photos. Watching your story without replying, just to show she saw it. A ridiculously casual, "Hey, stranger" text, as if she doesn't exactly know what happened. It's all an emotional gauge. She's trying to measure how much power she still holds over you. If you fall into the trap, reply too quickly and with too much feeling, congratulations, you've confirmed you're still available, and the silent disdain loses its punch. But if you stand firm, ignore her, or reply in a dry, cold, indifferent way, then the next stage kicks in. Fifth stage, desperation. If you do everything right and maintain your absence, she hits desperation. Now she really believes she's lost you, and guess what? People only value what they feel is slipping away. She might try anything. A long, dramatic message full of, "I was thinking about you," a random phone call, even suggesting a meetup. The game has turned. Now you're in control. And what do you do when she crawls back? Well, now that you're the prize, you have two choices. Accept her return, but set the rules. Now she knows you're not a trained puppy, so the dynamics change. Totally brush her off and move on. If she only started valuing you after you disappeared, she never truly cared. The next part will show you exactly how to act so she never sees you as a disposable man again. But before, listen, champ, are you tired of being the doormat for self-absorbed women? It's time to flip the script. There's a digital book in the description that teaches you how to stop being an emotional puppet and finally become a man of value. Do you want to keep being the disposable sucker, or learn how to be a challenge and get respect? The choice is yours. The world has no mercy for the weak. Number 4. Why do they only value you once they lose you? Now that you understand how a woman's mind crumbles when you vanish, the inevitable question arises. Why the hell does a woman only start to value a man after he disappears? Is it malice, cruelty, some universal Machiavellian plan to test your patience? No. The answer lies in something much simpler. Human psychology and female biology. The biological need to test a man's value. Since caveman days, women have always tested men. Back then, it meant choosing the strongest, smartest, and the ones with the most resources who could ensure survival for them and their kids. Today, no one needs to hunt mammoths or fight rival tribes, but the tests continue, only now they're emotional. When a woman sees a man who's always available, always ready, always there like a needy golden retriever, her internal alarm goes off. This guy has no options. It's not a conscious decision, it's a biological reflex. If a man has value, He can't be at your beck and call 24/7. Because men of value have options. If you're always around, then, well, maybe you're not that desirable after all. And the reverse is also true. When you disappear, when you stop scrambling for attention, her brain goes into panic mode. If he's not chasing me, maybe he's with someone else. And if he's with someone else, maybe I missed out on a real catch. And then, my friend, doubt begins to gnaw at her confidence. And one thing a woman's mind can't stand is uncertainty in relationships. The female competition instinct. You know that classic scenario. A guy falls for a woman, does everything for her, and gets ignored. He moves on and starts dating someone else, and suddenly the first woman reappears, as if nothing happened. Coincidence? Not a chance. It's the female competition instinct at work. Women are extremely competitive when it comes to relationships. They want what other women desire. If no one seems interested in you, why would she be? But if another woman starts seeing your value, then suddenly you become a prize. Her mental image of you shifts completely. From a predictable sucker to a man with value. From a sure thing to someone scarce. From needy to someone worth fighting for. You've gone from being a disposable accessory to being a real challenge. What does this mean for you? It means the fatal mistake most men make is trying to prove their worth by being overly available. They think that by showing more interest, more affection, more cute messages, they'll be valued more. But the truth is the exact opposite. The man who's always there, available and predictable, is the one who suffers the most from female disdain. The man who creates scarcity, who gives no guarantees, who maintains a hint of mystery. That's the guy who triggers the most powerful female instinct, the fear of loss. And now, what do you do when she crawls back? Now comes the most critical part. If you mess up, all that advantage you built goes down the drain. So, in the next section, I'll show you the fatal mistakes many men make when she comes back crawling, and how to ensure the game stays in your favor. Keep your wits about you because this is where most guys fail miserably. Number 5, the mistake most guys make when she comes back. You did everything right. You applied silent disdain, ignored her tests, resisted the urge to text, and sure enough, she returned. Maybe it was a random text out of nowhere, a disguised compliment, perhaps even an invitation to chat. Now the game's in your hands. But here's the critical part. 99% of guys mess up at this very moment. The fatal mistake, acting like nothing happened. This is the classic error of the romantic sucker. The woman disappears, treats you like trash, but as soon as she reappears with a "Hey stranger," he opens his arms and acts like nothing ever happened. He gets excited, replies instantly, sets up a date on the same day, falls back into that golden retriever mode. Result? She realizes that the control has shifted back to her. The silent disdain loses all its effect. Now she knows you were just waiting for a sign to throw yourself at her again. And then guess what? She loses interest all over again. The cycle resets, and you go back to being just another guaranteed guy she takes for granted. The second mistake, trying to get even. Another classic mistake is the guy who thinks it's his turn to get revenge. He replies coldly and arrogantly, tries playing mind games to make her feel insecure, acting as if he's taking revenge. It might work for a bit, but in the end, if you're trying to prove something, you're still emotionally involved. And guess what? She notices that. If she sees you still reacting to her moves, even if it's with coldness, it means she still holds power over you. The secret: maintain the balance between indifference and accessibility. The key to keeping total control is simple. Act like a man with other priorities in life. If she texts, you reply, but on your time. If she asks to meet, you don't change your plans just to please her. If she tries to flirt, you don't melt like you did before. She needs to feel that even after time apart, you've changed. Now you're not in the same emotional place. You've evolved. You don't need her for anything. And you know what happens when a woman realizes that? She starts seeing you as a challenge. Now it's her turn to win you over. And that's the moment when you stop being a disposable man and become an indispensable one. Next step, turn it into a lifestyle. Now that you've learned not to throw all your progress away, here comes the most important part. How to use silent disdain continuously so you're never treated like just an option again. This isn't a short-term trick. It's a lifestyle. The The difference between men who are desired and those who are forgotten lies right here. And in the next section, you'll learn how to become a man who never has to beg for attention again. Number 6. How to use silent disdain to always be the prize. Silent disdain isn't some cheap trick to make a woman miss you and then fall back into that same humiliation cycle. If you want to never be treated as a backup plan again, you need to understand that this isn't a temporary move. It's a lifestyle. The key isn't just to vanish when she loses interest, but to become a man who never has to beg for validation again. Here are the 3 fundamental principles to always be the prize. First principle: you're always the prize. Valued men aren't those who live trying to impress women. They're the ones who value themselves so much that women feel the need to earn them. If she disappears, you don't miss her. If she comes back, you don't get all excited. If she's in a good mood, great. If not, it's no big deal. If she breaks it off, that's her problem. You move on like nothing happened. She should never feel like she has 100% control over you, because what's guaranteed is disposable. Second principle: intentional scarcity. If you're always available, your presence loses its value. And before you get it twisted, it's not about ignoring women out of spite. It's about having such a busy, interesting life that no woman can be its center. If she wants to see you, great, but on your terms. If she texts, fine, but you reply when it suits you. If she tries to play emotional games, well, good for her. You don't play that game. A man who's busy, purposeful, and focused isn't worried about pleasing anyone. And you know what happens to a man who doesn't care about pleasing others? He becomes magnetic. Third principle: a man with options never beg for attention. Women can tell when a man has options, and they can also tell when a man's desperate. If you treat a woman as your only shot at happiness, she'll treat you as something disposable. But if she sees that you're desired, valued, and in demand, she'll never treat you like just an option. And it's not about showing off or pretending you've got other women. It's about attitude. Confidence. Being a man who never puts anyone above his own worth. Now, the final question: what's next? Now that you understand the game, there's just one thing left. Make sure this change is permanent. Because what separates desired men from forgotten ones is exactly that. So, the choice is in your hands. You can continue being the emotional doormat, or you can finally become the man who never has to chase. Which one do you want to be? Number 7. What will you do from here on? Now that you know exactly how silent disdain works, there's one final question. What are you going to do with this information? Here, my friend, there are only 2 options. Option 1, keep being a sucker. You can ignore everything you've learned. Keep begging for attention, chasing women who don't value you, and sticking to relationships where you're the only one interested. Keep saying good morning to someone who replies at midnight, waiting for responses that never come, accepting crumbs while pretending everything's fine. And then, when you get ignored again, ditched again, humiliated again, you'll act all surprised. Option 2, man up and change. If you truly want to turn the game around, the decision is simple. Never be seen as a disposable man again. Never chase a woman who shows disinterest. Never beg for attention like you're asking for charity. Never be so available that you become invisible. A man who values himself doesn't worry about who comes and goes, because he knows that whoever leaves loses. Now I want to know, have you ever used silent disdain before? How did she react? Drop your experience in the comments. Let's swap ideas and break down this game in real-life terms. And if you want more content like this so you're never treated like a man without worth again, subscribe to the channel now. Because the difference between continuing to be ignored and finally turning the game around is just one click away. The choice is yours.